So it's not worth buying altcoins just yet. All that happened was that short sellers' stop losses were triggered. The high was broken here, and today we're seeing this hammer candle. It hasn't fully formed yet, it hasn't closed. Anything can happen during the day. But in the last few videos I clearly told you and explained why the trend would change here. In short, the volumes are weak. No one is buying above the all-time high on the market. Yes, any dip from the all-time high gets bought up in a V-shaped recovery. So there is some buyer here who wants to build a position with smaller volumes, or who doesn't want the trend to reverse into a downtrend. But as soon as, and if a seller comes in, as soon as there's a spike in volume significantly below the all-time high, the buyer here won't be enough. Who is buying in this V-shaped manner? Price will collapse. That's a long-term scenario. We'll see how it actually plays out. There still needs to be some rounding off, some bending here. So in the next, I don't know, maybe a couple of weeks, I'm not expecting a sharp collapse, but rather some fading of the trend, a shift in sentiment. If right now everyone is shouting about the all-time high, about it being alt season as some say, then I think within 2 weeks that will change. It will become obvious to everyone that the trend has tilted, and you'll start to hear a slightly different mood. I think this will be close to the moment of a flash crash when people will start exiting crypto en masse and the price will collapse. Nevertheless, my previous video was about how there isn't much point in getting into Bitcoin. If, for example, you're out of the market and you don't want to miss a potential vertical takeoff, should it happen, you need to look towards altcoins. Altcoins compared to Bitcoin are currently at the bottom, and I showed you how and by what principles to choose altcoins that are at the bottom and how to enter them at the right time. And if you watched this video carefully, you'll see that it's still a long way to the nearest entry points. So to remind you, you need a trend reversal from a downtrend, and you need an altcoin that's at the bottom with rising lows. A reversal from a downtrend and a breakout above the nearest key level. Only then can you buy in the case of this chart right here. You shouldn't just rush into altcoins now, just because Bitcoin has broken its local high, it hasn't even reached its all-time high yet. Number, you should only rush in if altcoins come back to life, and that will only happen if we see a healthy bull market here with a subsequent vertical surge. We won't miss that moment. There's still quite a bit of time before that happens. So even if Bitcoin suddenly shoots up vertically today with a single upward spike, the market won't be able to react to all of this quickly or in time. Altcoins won't instantly change their trends, they won't immediately break through key levels to the upside. No, nothing will happen. Altcoins will continue to lag behind, they'll remain weak, might also show a small upward spike, but will mostly just move sideways near the bottom. And only after, even if there is a vertical surge in Bitcoin, we'll be assessing whether it maintains that momentum, whether the impulse continues, fades away, or even reverses. There might even be a huge wick down here, which would be a mega bearish signal. In other words, anything could happen there. And that's even in the case of a vertical surge now, which is unlikely. Most likely it will be a quiet fading, a slide down. The short seller's stop losses have been triggered, and now there's nothing stopping it from going lower. By the way, I read the comments under the previous video. Someone wrote like, aha, Artem shorted, he got stopped out. Aha, someone had a laugh at my expense. Honestly, I find it funny to read such comments because I didn't short. In general, I share information about all my trades on my social media, sometimes with a bit of a delay. Rarely on YouTube, mostly it's my Instagram and Telegram accounts. The links to them will be below. If you're genuinely interested in which trades I open, so you don't have to wonder whether Artem shorted and got stopped out, follow me there and you can keep track of my trades. Not in real time, of course, but I do post them with a bit of a delay. I only trade in real time with my students. For the past 2 years, I've been trading on the Bybit exchange. It's the #1 platform in terms of trading, volume and liquidity. That means your orders will be executed here at the best prices and with minimal slippage. Just from that alone, you'll save several $100s a month compared to trading on any other exchange. In addition, the fees here are low, and if you register using my referral link in the description, you'll receive a bonus ranging from $50,000 to $30,000, depending on the size of your deposit. Right now, follow the link in the description, then click this button and see what bonus amount you'll get for registering. On average, my subscribers receive about $100 for registering on the Bybit exchange. But if you have a large deposit and a corresponding trading volume, you can receive up to $30,000 as a bonus. The link is below. Register now, it only takes a few minutes. Let's take a look at what happened. Yes, the stop losses were triggered. Yes, it's tilting, but what's the key point here? We had a support level, above which the price consolidated after a V-shaped rebound. This support level is crucial. What was there? 106,800. Why is it crucial? Because it's the support level from which the price bounced when it broke through the last all-time high right here. at the end of May, in the 20th of May. And moreover, these very levels served as support when the price was forming a descending setup at the all-time high. So this is a key zone, I've talked about it many times. And here as well, it acted as a mirror level. There were retests of it. The price started to crash. I'm expecting roughly this kind of movement. So first we'll see a kind of fading like this, and then just a vertical drop like this. Well, the only thing that was missing here was volume. When the volume comes in, it will continue and be even stronger and more painful. There was no volume here, and the buyer bought the price back in a V-shape, pushing it above the key zone. But there isn't a market buyer willing to drive the price vertically upward. There's no FOMO in the market. Everyone who wanted to has already taken positions. They don't have the money to buy Bitcoin at the top at all-time highs and push the price higher and higher. No one wants to be the hamster that gets dumped on by the guys who are accumulating positions right here. No one wants to enter at the highs. Everyone is waiting for the market to start buying at the highs and to take off vertically. But overall, the whole market doesn't want to do that, and it's obvious. Here is the key level. It would seem that if the price breaks above it, the road to the all-time high is open. The path to the next vertical takeoff is open. But here, not even the all-time high was broken, let alone a vertical takeoff. In other words, the buyers didn't even have enough strength to reach the high, and the price collapsed instantly. Yes, here again the buyers tried, one way or another, to push the price above this level. Again, it didn't work out. Another downward move upward was drawn. The price started to fall again, to lose momentum. Some vertical crashes happened, then a V-shaped recovery, and they barely managed to push the price above this key level again. It stayed here, it was being held. In other words, they couldn't hold it here. There, the buyer immediately tried to push the price much higher to break the high. But here, it didn't have enough money. Obviously, no one wants to take losses, so that's it, they let the price go and it just dropped. Here, they tried to do the same thing, nothing worked. Another lower high. Here, the buyers who bought up all of this in a V-shape placed their positions right below this level to prevent the price from falling lower. As a result, it consolidated here. It stayed above this level. There were some attempts to rise, local highs were broken, short sellers were squeezed out, and that was it. So in essence, even from this high, a new lower high was formed. But if you look closely, pay attention here. It's about the same level, yes, but with a slight decrease. In fact, you could also call it a lower high, and that's it. And again, there wasn't enough volume to hold this level, to hold this price. Here on the Bitcoin hourly chart, I see there was a 200-day moving average. It was broken through, and then there were some more attempts, you see, with a spike in volume. Where is it? Here it is, with a spike in volume. There were attempts to hold the price, but how did that end? With a big upper wake and a bearish engulfing, a mega bearish setup, a mega bearish signal. Yes, for some reason the seller didn't show up here again. For now, the market doesn't want to sell. It's still looking at Bitcoin optimistically. And once again, the buyer pushed the price up. This time they actually updated the high. So here, 1, 2, 3 times they failed to update the high. Here, the highs were updated. But what's happening? So far, nothing out of the ordinary. It's just technically a volatility expansion. Actually, somewhere around here, either a bit higher or lower, it will pull back. It doesn't matter, there should be a volatility contraction. In other words, sooner or later, volatility will contract. And after this contraction, the market will move in the direction in which the price breaks out. Typically, after expanding and contracting volatility, this kind of diamond-shaped pattern, the breakout, is more likely to occur in the direction from which the price entered this volatility. In this case, it came from below, so a downward breakout is more likely. Of course, I'm looking quite far ahead here. Anything could happen at this point. The price might linger at the top here and form some other patterns, or it might collapse and just drop straight down. Anything can happen, but the most likely scenario is simply a narrowing of volatility around these same levels, followed by a further move down. That's it. The rounding off, the bending this is the market being held artificially. All the timings when FOMO could have started and the market could have started buying up and shooting to a new all-time high, all those timings have been missed. There's nothing indicating a vertical takeoff. I want to emphasize that once again, and I've mentioned this repeatedly in previous videos as well. On the positive side, I have to point out that altcoins have started to come alive. So this is the altcoin versus Bitcoin chart. Here it has drawn a bottom, some ascending lows, so it's slowly coming back to life, right? And during this Bitcoin rally, altcoins also responded quite well. But there's no need to buy anything yet. It's too early to buy. There's no alt season and it's not even being discussed. This is quite a lengthy process of forming a bottom here. Yes, we've exited the most local downtrend, but if you draw the trend line like this, we haven't broken out of it. You can draw the downtrend in any way you like, and we still haven't broken out of it. We'll only exit the downtrend when we overcome the previous downward movement to the upside. On this chart, that level is right here at 0.54. And yes, if we consolidate here, form some high lows, start pressing up against this level, and then break upwards, that will be the entry point into altcoins. This should roughly coincide with the formation of a bottom in the altcoins that are currently at their lows. So pay attention, this chart itself is at the bottom. We simply look for coins that have a similar appearance against the dollar, and the breakout on that chart to the upside will roughly coincide with these same altcoins breaking out of their downtrend and moving above key levels. And that will be the very entry point I mentioned at the beginning of the video and that I talked about in the previous episode. In general, there's no need to panic, no need to give in to FOMO, don't be afraid. If you're trading without a system, now is the perfect time to create one. What does a trading system actually consist of? Well, at the very least, it should include principles for entering positions, exiting them, holding certain positions, rules for setting stop losses, and so on. Now is the time to develop those. It's unlikely that anyone who has a trading system is panicking and buying right now. But there are a lot of people panicking and buying right now just because Bitcoin has hit a new local high. If you've been holding your position all this time and haven't exited, you can wait a little longer until the market starts to turn around again. That is, if it starts to round off like that, you'll notice a local trend line just draw it along the impulse, and when that impulse is broken, you exit. Of course, it also depends on which coins you're stuck in. Yes, obviously, if you've been holding through a crypto winter for several years and have huge losses, then there's no point in considering an exit right now. Only if you entered recently and your loss is small. Or maybe you're even slightly in profit. Or if you got in a long time agazum of my students, for example, bought Bitcoin at $16,000 back here in 2022, in that case, sure, why not lock in some profit? The only thing is, if you want, you can wait a little, as I said, until some local trend, let's say you draw it like this, gets broken downward. When that happens, that's when you exit. That would be optimal, with minimal risk, a good exit point. Those are my thoughts, more or less. And yes, let me remind you once again that all the important links are below, including the exchange where I trade with the best conditions, and my other social networks where you can check out my trades, chat, and so on. Also, leave your comments and subscribe to the channel. Good luck!